Hey, Gateway friends, it's Adam for our second Ask Adam Anything video of Thursday, September 17th. Remember, you can shoot these questions in to us through direct messages on our social media accounts, email me, text me, send me a tissue for my sneezes, whatever it might be. But we care about you and the questions you're wrestling with about faith, scripture, life, whatever it might be. So know that you matter to us and your questions matter, and we want to be able to walk with you as you try to see what God's truth might be in that particular question that you are wrestling with. Our second question today that we're looking at is the question of what does God want me to do with my life? And this is a great question. I know for a lot of you, you're kind of at this crossroads of life. College choices, sports choices, relationship. Maybe you're an adult even watching this saying, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm 40 years old. I'm 30 years old. I'm 80 years old. What does God want me to do with my life? I want to encourage you, first off, that you matter to God. The decisions you make matter to God. That you aren't missing your purpose in life if what you're doing isn't splashy. And what I mean is sometimes we've bought into this idea that if I'm not doing something big, then I must have made a mistake somewhere. That's just not true. That's not true of how God views you. Your value is not about how famous or big or what size of impact you might make in the immediacy of choices, but that you matter because you're an image bearer of God, called by the grace of Jesus Christ. So one, don't worry if you haven't done something big. You matter to God. So as we look at what God's truth has to say about what should I do with my life, I want you to first be aware of the truth that we find in the Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. It's a verse or passage you may have heard before. I really like it. It says, I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you for a hope and a future. And it's the prophet Jeremiah speaking to the nation of Israel, people who are under great oppression, and it's a message from God to his people saying, I have not forgotten you. You may feel like you're forgotten in the midst of whatever terrible calamity you're facing. Maybe you didn't get into the college you wanted. Maybe someone broke up with you. Maybe someone has passed away, or you didn't get the job, whatever it might be. God says, you're not forgotten. You still matter to me, and your life isn't over. There's still a plan. Even if your plan didn't go the way you expected it, my plan continues to move forward. So that should shape your hope no matter where you're at, whether you're 14 or 94, God has a plan for your future, and you matter to him. Now, one of the things that we do as believers sometimes, and not even Christians, but just people, we get locked in a moment of indecision out of a fear of making the wrong decision. We kind of talk about this like it's called FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like, I don't want to commit to anything because if I commit to something, what if that means I miss out on something better? And so I just don't do anything. And so I'm so afraid, like, what if I pick the wrong college, or I take the wrong job, or I date the wrong person? Like, I'm become so locked into my fear about the future that I don't know how to make a good decision right now. And so I want to challenge you, first off, your life isn't marked by a bunch of black and white decisions. If you're trying to decide between being a criminal and being a doctor, I think it's easy. Become a doctor, don't be a criminal. That's black and white. But most of the rest of the decisions that you and I will wrestle with, the value in either direction it's kind of equal. Like, doesn't matter what college you go to, doesn't matter what job you take. That's not the key issue you need to wrestle with. What we need to look at is what Colossians tells us in chapter 3, verse 17. It says, whatever you do, honor God. To kind of paraphrase, whatever you do in word or deed, honor the Lord. What matters about the decision you do make is that you are focusing first and foremost on how do you honor God within the context of the situation you're in. And that's the key component that you have to wrestle with is whatever I'm doing, how do I honor God? And so you can have confidence to make a decision. You can, weigh all those options that you need to weigh and then step forward in faith, knowing that God is in control, that God has a plan for you. You're not going to screw up the plan. You can say, I'm going to do this, and whatever it is I'm doing, I am going to be honoring God in the way I behave, and the way I operate so that whatever it is I'm doing is the right thing. So whether I become a doctor or a teacher or a youth pastor, whatever it is, I honor God, and that means I'm in the right place. No matter who I marry, no matter where I live, no matter any of those things, I honor God and I'm in the right place. Now, within that, the decision-making process, if you kind of make a decision tree, pros and cons, I'm trying to figure out what I should do. What is important, though, in the decision-making process, even though no matter what decision you make, you honor God and then it's the right decision, the decision-making process is not something that you can do by yourself. You and I are accountable to God's community. The Bible tells us that we need one another. The New Testament is full of one another passages. So whatever it is you're deciding, if you're not willing to allow other people to speak truth into your life, other godly people, then I'm willing to guess you know that the decision you're making isn't okay. Because if you had confidence in what God was having you do, you would have confidence to trust God's people to speak into your life. But if you just are going to make a decision unilaterally, you're going to run into some problems, because God speaks to us through the truth that he brings to bear in our lives through the life of other Christians. Because here is the truth. You and I are people who are depraved. We struggle with different degrees of sin. And so therefore, I sometimes allow my sinful desires to shape what I think God is telling me, because I'm just being sinful. And I need other people to say, Adam, the only reason you want that job is not because you want to honor God, but because you want money, or you think girls will like you, or whatever it might be. And then if I'm being honest, I say, you're right. Like, my decision to do that choice was a decision not rooted in trust of God, but self. And so trust that God has a plan for you. And that plan is not about making the exact right decision, but honoring God with what decisions you do make. But as you come upon those decisions, to be pursuing godly wisdom from other people. Allow yourself to be transparent and accountable in community, and you can have confidence in where you're headed. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Remember to send those questions in. We love you guys. Have a great week.